Today on New Challenger, chainsaws, cheerleaders, zombies, very tiny Kotaku editors. Very small. Today's episode of New Challenger is brought to you by Full Sail University. Welcome to the show. I am Anthony, and oh man, you guys, did you see? LOLLIPOP Chainsaw came out this week. I am a huge Suda51 fan, so I've been excited for this one for a while. I reviewed it yesterday, and I definitely came away pretty happy, though the game was not without its hiccups. I'll put a link to the review down below. Kotaku coordinating editor Tina Amini also reviewed the game and had some issues with it as well. Thank you for joining me, Tina.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So let's start off here. Just talking about straight gameplay, I felt like this was the most solidly paced game that Suda's ever done.
Yeah, I think it was also the game's strongest suit was the gameplay, which is surprising for a Suda game, because that's not the immediate thing you would expect.
Yeah, usually you're like, wow, that was weird and quirky, and I guess it kind of worked. And I mean, the gameplay in this one did work for the most part. There were still some like very glitchy sort of things. I had some trouble kind of sometimes triggering those quick time event areas. Like I would run up to a window and it'd be like push B to jump, and I'd be like, well, that didn't happen. Yeah,
it's pretty hard on you if you can't get the quick time event just on the moment that it's supposed to be. But it's not so annoying because it doesn't happen too often, so it's kind of excusable in the long scheme of things.
Yeah, so let's talk about just kind of the quirkiness and the Suda-ness of it. This is obviously very influenced by kind of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, very influenced by kind of Machine Girl and some anime stuff. How did you feel about the sense of humor? How did it go over for you?
You know, it was kind of hit or miss. Like occasionally I would think it was funny, and especially because I know Suda's style and I know Grasshopper Manufacturer's style. It's supposed to be quirky, it's supposed to be random, it's supposed to be very inappropriate. And that works, but there were so many jokes that just fell flat for me and didn't really work in the context and kind of felt misplaced.
Yeah, it had this weird thing where I felt like either they couldn't decide whether it was supposed to be a tongue-in-cheek parody of an exploitation thing or whether it really was an exploitation thing. And I don't know if it's that they couldn't get a handle on the tone or if the writing chops weren't there, which would be surprising to me with James Gunn on it.
Yeah, I was surprised too, and to me, my instinct is to say that the writing chops weren't there because certain of this, like some of the script just was really unfunny to me, and like I kind of rolled my eyes at it. Like I knew what they were trying to do, but it just didn't work.
What are you gonna do? Throw magic stars at chupacabras with your tongue?
Maybe, Dad. Nick's tongue is very limber.
And it might be because of James Gunn inclusion, but it is, you know, unfamiliar territory in a way, so maybe like that mesh of different creative minds didn't work exactly, but it wasn't always terrible, so
no,
it's okay.
There was a lot of good stuff, but there were some times where it was just like, you know, for me, if you had on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, if somebody had looked at Buffy the Vampire Slayer and said, nice tits, Buffy the Vampire Slayer would have had something to say about that. And Juliet just, all she did was giggle about it. And I felt like the problem was there wasn't a lot of depth to Juliet, especially because she was surrounded by a lot of really strong supporting characters.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing about Suda games too, is that it's more so about the characters. It's what made No More Heroes so funny and endearing, and Shadows of the Damned. It's all about those central characters. And to me, like, Juliet didn't feel like the central character. She felt like, you know, the thing that you controlled and kind of like looked at every once in a while because of all the crotch shots. And in the end, it was more so Nick that was funny to me, and like I'd rather hear him talk than her talk.
Yeah, and it was interesting because they gave Nick, almost a lot of times Nick was the player's voice. Like there are those levels or those areas in the levels where you pole dance to kind of like kill off 1,000,000 dudes at once. And Nick was always voicing my opinion during those, which is like, where did you learn that? Why is this pole here? What is going on?
That's the exact impression I got, and he was so much more funny than she was. She was pretty much oblivious to everything the entire time. So you can't really, I don't see how you could connect with her because she's supposed to be the ditzy girl that doesn't understand that everybody thinks she's hot. And your sensei did not tell you to wear teddy bear underwear because it's actually helping you in battle. So she's really just there to be made fun of, poke fun of, and look at.
So do you think there's a difference in the obliviousness between Juliet and between like Travis Touchdown? Because Travis was an oblivious character as well, but somehow came off a lot more likable to me.
I think it's because he didn't really care. He was who he was and he enjoyed it. You know, he's like the stereotypical otaku just like drooling all over himself for Sylvia. And it worked really well. Like it just made sense for his character and for his motivation throughout the game, which is pretty much to sleep with Sylvia.
So what do you think was done right in terms of story?
See, that's what's really strange for a Suda game is that, like, well, the more recent Suda games, because, you know, his earlier work, like Killer 7, was really complex and really deep. But now it's sort of teetering more towards a trend of something that's really stupid but funny and enjoyable. So there's not really, like, there is a storyline there if you want to dig it up and really follow it, but it's more so about the characters that you meet and the bosses that you fight.
Malicious lords, I invoke your dark forces in declaring myself God of this realm. As the pawn is present, may your ritual commence, and may the dark purveyors appear!
That really held everything together for me. It wasn't so much about, like, there's this goth kid and he wants revenge against everybody in high school for making fun of him, and like there's this weird cheerleader with like who's a zombie hunter. But it's more so the fact that, you know, they are who they are rather than the roles that they're playing in this grand storyline.
Yeah, let's talk about these boss battles, because I am not a guy who enjoys boss battles. I've like very often vocally said that I think boss battles are they're kind of irrelevant now in video games. They kind of don't fit with sort of story and narrative anymore. But these were some of the best boss battles I have played in recent memory. Just even beginning from the first one where you're playing against the punk band singer who is literally throwing his words and his screams at you. I thought they did really well with these.
Yeah, it was phenomenal, and it's funny that you mentioned that about boss battles, because I completely agree. A lot of times it feels so far removed from the rest of the game, it doesn't feel cohesive. But what Lollipop Chainsaw ended up becoming was a game about its boss battles. Like I went through each of the zones just to get to the boss battle. Like what crazy other concoction are they cooking up for the next one?
Yeah, absolutely. That was definitely a big motivator for me as well. So when we come back, we're gonna have our final thoughts on Lollipop Chainsaw. But first, you love to play video games, but have you ever thought of creating them yourself? Well, whether you're interested in programming, art and animation, story creation, or even producing games, there's a game degree program at Full Sail University to fit your needs. If you're looking for an online program, Full Sail's Game Art and Game Design bachelor's degree programs utilize Full Sail's immersive education platform. They give you the ability to earn your degree from anywhere in the world. Full Sail grads have worked on such titles as Red Dead Redemption, the Call of Duty series, Madden NFL 11, and more. Some small titles, maybe you heard of them. Full Sail's campus is equipped with professional level game studios and labs where you can work with teams of your peers to create a playable game from start to finish, and all Full Sail students receive a laptop preloaded with game industry software at a deep institutional discount. Full Sail University also offers a variety of campus and online degrees in fields related to the entertainment and media industry. So if you're into art and design, filmmaking, recording arts, entertainment business, and many more, they probably have a program for you. Visit fullsail.edu/challenger to learn more. Start making video games. Be the next Suda. Let's do it, man. Let's talk about our final thoughts on this. You know, like every Suda game, I think this was a mixed bag, but I think he's getting closer and closer to sort of making his vision work.
You know, when I played this game, I really enjoyed it, and I kept having flashbacks to No More Heroes, and to anybody who played the game, we've been talking about No More Heroes, and it makes me want to play No More Heroes more, and I think that it was a more successful game, but I think that Lollipop Chainsaw still has its strong suits, being mainly the boss battles and some of the humor, and the combat for sure. So it seems to be stretching in areas where it hadn't before and expanding and growing, but kind of lagging behind in others. So, I mean, I'm sure with practice, the fortunate thing about sequels and practice in game development is that you just get better and better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of gameplay, because when I think about No More Heroes, I think about the broken areas where you're driving on that giant cruddy motorcycle, and I think about a lot of those mini games that were just built to be mini games, and I think he's kind of figured out that he needed to kind of curb some of his instincts to make a game that just feels better for a player. But you're right, I do think we're missing some of that weirdness and oddness that kind of made early Suda stuff just Suda stuff, you know? Yeah. Overall, would you say this is a buy it? This is a game that you would play?
Well, it depends really. I mean, for some people I might say rent it because it's kind of a short game. There's only a few zones that you go through, and you could sit down and play it in a day if you're that kind of a gamer. But it really depends on what you're looking for. If you like Suda's style and you want to see something a little quirky and different, I'd say definitely play it. But if you're turned off by the fact that it's a short game and that the main draw is the boss and the combat, which you should not be turned off by for that, then maybe you don't want to. But if you like games that I like, and if you have similar tastes as I do, then most likely, yeah, definitely you should.
Yeah. I feel the same way. If you like the weird, this is the weird, and it may just be the weird for you. Tina, thank you for coming in. She's a coordinating editor for Kotaku, so be sure to head over there and check out her Lollipop Chainsaw review. I will be back next week with Quantum Conundrum, so be sure to subscribe here to Rev3 Games so you do not miss it. There are no cheerleaders in Quantum Conundrum.
Unfortunately.
Or rockabillys, I think, but there are more teddy bears.
Teddy bears work, but I could do with some breakdancing zombies.
There you go.